Oh, so here I am with Matthew Nelson, the third person. Well, what do they say that you're the only family in history to have three successive number one hits,
That
and
is true.
and you're carrying on the
You're getting
legacy.
half Nelson today because, of course, I usually come as a pair. I got my brother Gunnar, who I always say I've been carrying him for years. It's okay. He's off doing another interview in another studio right now. This is great. We can kind of split things because we wind up just basically saying pretty much the same thing. I usually do it a little better. You'll get this at the end of this, but we're the only family in history, according to the Guinness Book, to have three successive generations of number one hit makers on the charts.
That's
Our grandparents,
amazing.
Ozzy and Harriet, were obviously TV stars. You know them from Ozzy and Harriet. But they had a big band in the 30s. They were out there 14 years touring and tons of records, and had a number one in 1935 with a song called "And Then Some." And then our dad Ricky Nelson came along in the 50s and 60s and 70s and sold 500 million records in his career. Had a bunch of number ones. And then Gunnar and I, the two hot Swedish chicks, kind of dominated MTV for a while, and the kind of the end of the confidence rock era, right before grunge. So we had our number ones as well. So that was kind of a nice thing. We didn't really know about it until our sister called us and said she was watching Jeopardy and we were a Final Jeopardy question. So
Really?
that was kind of nice. Nice being in the pop lexicon, you know?
Yeah, you've made it in life when you're on Jeopardy, as
Great.
referred to. So,
What
so
is the Wilsons was the wrong answer. No, it's for the Nelsons. Yes. So,
that's funny. Oh, we're in a new studio today, so we actually have a studio now at the Canyon Club where you're performing. So,
yes.
and that's we look forward to your performance every year. So you guys
Well,
live in Malibu, don't you?
go ahead. Over.
Oh, you live in Malibu, don't you?
No, I wish we lived in Malibu. I graduated from Palisades High, which burned to the ground, so it's not there anymore. But
Wow.
we live in Tennessee. I'm actually coming to you from our studio in Franklin, Tennessee. Basically, it's kind of like Los Angeles South because everybody got smart and moved to Tennessee and saved the taxes. But that's where we are right now. But to us, the Canyon Club in the Valley, look, I went to school at Crespi High School,
Right.
then Palisades High. I mean, I'm a Val. So it's like it's a hometown gig for us. And last time we were there, we were just talking off air. We were there for Norm Harris. Norman's Rare Guitars had a
Yeah.
benefit concert for, I think it was the Mission, where they were doing. So Melissa Etheridge was there, Orianthi was there. Gunnar and I came and did an acoustic duo show, which was great, and we love it there. I mean, a couple times ago, we were playing a full band show with our band Nelson. We filled the place up, had a great
Right.
energy, and the director James Gunn, who directed Guardians of the Galaxy and all the DC stuff now, sent his crew down to basically scout us for his show, the Peacemaker with John Cena on HBO. So it was their number one show, and he wrote an episode after seeing that show at the Canyon Club called Full Nelson. And Cena came down with his Peacemaker character and had his first kiss with his love interest for the season finale. It was called Full Nelson, and great thing. We flew to Savannah, Georgia, and it all happened because of the Canyon Club. It's a really vibey stage. It's a great funky place, and we love playing there.
Well, and that's the amazing thing about. I was just sitting with our landlords as I was complaining about rent prices, but
Mm.
I,
California.
yeah, it's amazing to me that like if you looked at our lineup, you would think we were some huge place. That we're just a little local place, and I think they put it the best. We're so unhip that we are the hippest thing out there.
Well, that's the greatest thing because Gunnar and I are the patron saints of the tragically unhip.
Yeah,
That's fine. I mean, maybe one day the Canyon Club will actually put us on their billboard off the freeway. That's when we know we've made it when
right.
they actually put your name up. Instead of Boys to Men, it's Nelson. So we'll see
Yeah,
what happens.
when the name's up and it's been up there so long that they haven't replaced it and it's faded in color. So
Yeah,
it's
I hear a lot about that from the nice thing about the Canyon Club is it's pretty it's first of all a great stage, great sound system, great crew. So if you want to go see a show, it's a great place to go and have an evening. And I think we were talking about our grandparents and the big band. The dinner and a show thing goes way back to the 20s and 30s, and I kind of like it that way anyways because
right.
you can have a nice meal with your significant other or your family and see a show. And uh, for us as entertainers, it's some days you work, some days you play. That's what our grandmother Harriet used to say. The old grand dame of, she was singing the Cotton Club when she was 16. People don't know
Wow.
that about her. She was really cool. And sometimes when a crew and a venue make it easy for you to do what you do, then it's all downhill from there. It's great. We love that. Canyon Club is that way. So
It's funny
when
because
we
when
get a
I was
booking, we know
talking
it's going to be a nice night.
Herman's Hermits,
Oh yeah,
the guy told
Peter.
me that, yeah, Peter said one day he looked back and he just wanted the band to have fun. And I think to me that is so accurate because when the band can have fun, it
Yeah.
bleeds through everything.
Well, they call it playing music for a reason. If everything's on, we're really having a great time. That's the whole point. I
Right.
mean, the best recordings I've ever made was me with 4 or 5 different guys and my brother in a studio watching each other and playing together. And you can feel that energy. And that's one thing I think in this world of unbelievable charades and things that are fake. The nice thing about live music is you can't fake it. It's immediate. And the hardest thing we have, our hardest time is just convincing. Well, Generation X, we're not really that way, but a younger generation, put your damn phones down. Be here right now. Experience this. Who cares about that little screen? Put it away. This is an analog moment. And we are analog men in a digital world, in a world of AI getting completely crazy. We used to joke and say, hey, there's no such thing as a talent plug-in, but I'm pretty sure there is now.
Yeah.
When you play live music, though, and especially when you write your own stuff or whatever. Our family had obviously one foot in acting and theater and stuff, and the other in music. And our uncle Mark Harmon's doing fine with the acting stuff.
Yeah.
He's taking care of that. That's our mom's brother, and our sister Tracy is an actress, and she's a good actress. But the one thing our dad used to say is that the one thing he missed when he was growing up on a soundstage. I mean, they did 435 episodes of Ozzie and Harriet,
Right.
and he started playing halfway through the run and exploded. He was like the Scud missile for rock and roll. He kind of snuck rock and roll into American living rooms at a time they couldn't even call it that on camera. It wouldn't pass the censors. So it started way back, but he said he missed the immediacy of playing to a live crowd. That's the thing that you get as a live musician is it's right there. And when you're on a sound stage, yeah, you've got the crew there, but you can't make any noise and you can't talk, and it's just a weird fakeness. And I think that's why our dad. I mean, he's a great actor. He was in Rio Bravo with John Wayne and Dean Martin and won a Golden Globe for that. But he said, I'm not a morning person. So he didn't like to get up early and go to the set. But the other thing, too, he was fabulous live. It was spontaneous and awesome. And I never saw him phone it in. Gunnar and I are the same way. We always play every show like it could be our last. And
Do you
unfortunately,
think
that's kind
people?
of, we have experience with that. That's
Yeah.
how it is. And
Oof.
there's a finality and immediacy into the moments. And clubs like, as I consider the Canyon, I call it Canyon Club, but it's like a large club. It's like one of the luxury places you get to play. I always think that it has kind of a small club soul, but the capacity and the ability to do a large show in that room.
Did
So
you ever
it's
play
kind of best
in
of
the
both worlds.
Valley at Filthy FMJ or Filthy McNasty's? Did you
Oh
ever
yeah,
play there? My uncle. That's where my uncle learned to. He was the front of house manager there.
we probably worked with them because I remember they called it FM Station
Right.
and Filthy McNasty's, which became the Central, which then became the Viper Room. So yeah,
Is that
we are hip to
crazy?
the whole thing, and we kind of got a break at that place when it was the Central before the Viper Room. It
Yeah.
had just gone from Filthy McNasty's to the Central. We got scouted by some bookers at Saturday Night Live, and we wound up being the only unsigned act to ever play SNL. As the musical guest, which was kind of fun.
How
It goes
was?
way back though, like beginning of '86.
Did they
So
involve
we
you of
were.
any skits? Did you
What's
get to
that? Sorry,
do?
no,
Did
we weren't in any skits on that one. It was we wrote about it in our book because since we've seen you guys. I mean, actually, it was after no before right before we did the benefit there. Gunnar and I wrote a book, and it's a bestseller. It's called "What Happened to Your Hair?" because that's the question we always get. And no ghostwriters or anything. Is just basically what it was like growing up in a crazy family and being Taylor Swift for a couple of years. So it's a really fun read. And just kind of going back into that whole story, there's a whole chapter on the SNL thing. The host was Ron Reagan Jr.
Oh wow.
And well, what you get in the book, and people have no idea about Gunnar and myself and growing up, and it wasn't all Ozzie and Harriet for us, which is why we had kind of a mission and drive. But Ron Reagan Jr., let's just say he was familiar with our mother, And
Oh,
yeah, we didn't know that he was the music. He was the host that day. We showed up for rehearsal, and it's like, oh, Uncle Ron, hi. It was just really, really weird. So I mean, such is our life. But
when you
yeah,
were
this is.
talking earlier, I just dawned on me that Tom Hardman is your relative. Oh, what do we got there?
Oh, this is our book. This is what happened to your hair. You can see I'm cutting Gunner's hair right there, looking like a maniac.
Yeah,
And most people, what you're in for, most people put the best quotes about them on the back cover so people, when they're perusing, can go,
right.
oh, cool, like they're the greatest thing ever. We started with a bunch of quotes that are the best of the worst that people have said about us, starting with, I was married to their father. I'm not impressed, Mom. So there you go. That's what you're getting with our book. And it's a bestseller. So we're
So
happy
I'm
with
going to make
that.
sure that I have a couple of those books here if anybody coming to your
Oh,
concert, so we can make sure that we have the book available. Was it hard writing the book, or did you have a ghostwriter?
no, we didn't actually. That's the most important thing. Gunnar and I got talked into writing with a ghostwriter, even though we said, well, we can connect a sentence. I mean,
Right.
let's try it in our own voices. And we were sent 3 pages and made an immediate phone call and said, this is not going to work for us. It read like a Roland manual. It was
Right.
horrible. And not that he wasn't a successful writer. We just said, there's no way that, we're tired of people thinking that they know how we feel on things. Let's just see what happens and write it ourselves. And it was also, we were backed up against a corner because we got those pages with 3.5 weeks left on our contract to turn in a
Finish.
working corrected manuscript. So Gunnar and I set up the coffee machine, and I saw an awful lot of sunrises. And we wrote the entire 500-page book in about 2.5 weeks and delivered it. And it's fantastic. I love it. Everybody seems to, we get great reviews. People love it. And we actually did the audio book ourselves as well. We went in and read our own book. Gunnar, if he wrote a chapter, he read it. If I did my chapter, I read it. And the foreword was by John Boylan, record producer, very famous guy. He put the Eagles together for Linda Ronstadt as our backing band. He was producing our dad the night we were born, literally knew us before we were born, wound up producing our second album. So what you really get is it's very personal. And Gunnar and I have gotten through an awful lot of tough times, like we all do, through music and humor. And I think that you get that. You get our personalities. That was the most important thing is we always had a saying, love us or hate us, you're going to know who we are. And we took care of pretty much everything except for people knowing who we are.
Yeah.
And the only way we could do it is to write it down. And I'm telling you, we had 3 or 4 more books. We have stories. That's all I'm going to say. And there are a lot of stories in there. Some things that people would never believe. Like, our friendship with Henry Rollins is one,
Oh
which
yeah.
like Henry Rollins,
Have you
really?
done any spoken
And,
word? You'd be great at it.
well, Henry was an inspiration for me in the spoken word thing. I was watching. I was called by my dad's friend and also former roadie, who was mixing sound at the Roxy in Hollywood, saying Henry was coming in to do a spoken word thing, and this is way back in, I think, '92 or
Right.
'93, and I was excited to see it. And the long and the short of it was, he started making fun of the current state of music, including my band on stage. They had no idea I was there. So he just eviscerated me, and I was laughing, and everybody that came with me was like horrified. So my friend Gary Hurstis came up afterwards and was like, "Hey, I said, listen, I'd love to meet him." He said, well, "After that?" I said, "Yeah, I'd love to meet him." So he took me backstage, and it started with Henry looking at me, going, "What the hell are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I've been a fan for years," because people don't know this about Gunnar and myself. We were not hairbanders. We didn't hang out at the Gazaris. We were 10 years before that at Wong's West in Chinatown, Blue Lagoon Saloon, the Central, all that. So it was all the bands with the in their name. It was punkers and new wavers
Right.
and rockabillys. So that was our zone. That was our era. That's when we started playing clubs. We were 12, 13 years old playing at Wong's. And so all that stuff that came afterwards, we kind of honestly laughed at. And there we were with the long hair and the whole thing kind of lumped into that. If
Right.
you listen to our music, we were much more
Rock.
10 years before that, heavy folk. It was almost like more of a, I'm not going to say jangle pop with metal guitars, but it was close to that. It was very California sounding and different than all that other stuff because, we just weren't stupid. So we actually played that music and had a good time. We love writing a great pop song. But Henry Rollins basically made a judgment based on the outside. And I kind of, in a few minutes, told him that we had something in common. He was like, "What the hell do we have in common?" And I said, "Well, I know who you are. I read your books. I'm a huge fan. I know that you're a really bright guy, but you see pictures of my brother and myself looking like hot Swedish chicks on a newsstand and think, oh, that's all there is to them. I said, people that don't know you cross the street when they see you walking their way. I mean, you
Right.
got the neck tattoos. You look like you've done prison time. And the fact is, you're a really intelligent guy. You go many layers deep. He said, huh? And I said, so I think maybe one day we should do something together and maybe collaborate on something. It would blow people's minds. And he gave me his number.
Uh-huh.
And I called him a week later and I had him come in and do a spoken word on an album. The irony about that was it was brilliant. It was breathtaking. It was an album called Imaginator. It scared the crap out of Geffen, which was our label at the time, because it was really edgy.
Right.
And it was 30 years before its time, because we were talking about the media and computers and basically the cult of personality online before it was even a thing. And it was not Love and Affection and After the Rain. So not only did Geffen not want to release it, but Henry's label, I think it was Imago at the time, said no. They found out. He was like, we're not going to allow this on. We've got a contract. You can't do it. So we're going to be releasing that on. We have our own label now, and we have since then called Stone Canyon, and that's going to come out as a special edition with a spoken word on it. But he actually wrote a little thing in the book. We've got the back and forth with us in the book and the whole story there about it. The irony there was the fact was we connected because of misperceptions on each other and the way that the media presented us. And we created something unbelievable together. And at the end of the day, the record companies wouldn't let it happen, which is very typical. We were not alone in that. But I think that for anybody that just kind of wanted to judge us as being, as deep as a bird bath, they had to kind of look at it differently. And
Because I can tell you, I can tell you my take on
Henry
you.
and say, hey man,
Yep.
I wrote about you. Is it cool? And he's like, knock yourself out, man. He's an inspirational human, really smart person. And I highly recommend, if he ever does go out and do spoken word, everybody's got to see Henry Rollins, because you forget where you are. He's really a master at it. And to me, absolutely an inspiration for eventually going out and doing spoken word things. Because as I said, we've got stories. Give us a microphone, let us go.
Well,
It's
that's got to
fun.
be amazing, because I'm a big Henry Rollins fan, because a lot of people don't know the Canyon Club, when we first started, we were the punk rock place. And
I
then,
didn't know that either, actually.
yeah,
I
that's
didn't.
where Strung
There was
Out,
that
Bad
joint
Religion,
in
Henry
Orange County, I think
Rollins.
there was a big one too. I forgot, was that
Well, there was the Canyon Club in the Valley. That was a big punk rock place too.
got it. Okay, got it.
And then when I did that, and I remember I always was in the mosh pit, and I would threaten to tell everybody's that I would tell your parents if you hit me.
Well, Gunnar was a drummer when we started. He was a really good drummer, actually. People used to come to see this 12-year-old kid play the drums, and I was on bass. And Gunnar wound up teaching Joe Escalante, the drummer for the Vandals, how to play drums,
Oh,
way back when. And I love the Vandals and all the California stuff. I'm a big X fan, always was.
oh my God,
Um,
same.
you know, yeah. So I mean, talk about a punk band that could play. I mean, I love their whole vibe. Billy Zoom on the Gretsch, just different. And the Cramps too. I got to hang out with Lux Interior a little bit and Ivy, and they were huge Ricky Nelson fans. He dedicated an album to our dad. So it was like kind of going back into all that stuff that Gunnar and I
That's got to be
really
amazing for
loved.
you
You
guys,
know,
because I think about you guys, and everybody thinks because you're relative that you somehow got walked into this, and no, you didn't. And it reminds me when I'm here, and I know I'm out in the Canyon Club, and I know I'm in Agoura Hills, and I'm uncool. But it's funny, Live Nation, this huge company that is owned by megalobillionaires, is telling me how uncool I am. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I am uncool, and I'm okay with it. But I look at you guys and think, oh my goodness, that you have everything going, and it's amazing. Like Henry Rollins, you are part of music, and you had to work for it. You were not given anything.
well, our parents were. They had pretty much until my divorce in California. They had the worst divorce ever, and it was very public.
Right.
And it happened a lot in the '70s, especially in rock and roll. And we were forced to live with our mom. And our mom was beautiful. She was a Harmon kid.
Right.
Mark is my uncle. And, our grandfather, Tom, won the Heisman Trophy at Michigan in 1940. He was a, sportscaster, great athlete. But our mom was beautiful and talented and narcissistic and like vodka. And so it was really tough. And what Gunnar and I had basically was each other and music. That was it. We started playing about 7 years old. We never thought it wasn't going to happen for us. It was a matter of when. It was almost kind of like I'm into motorsports, and I talk to a lot of people that are kind of sons of or nephews of or whatever. There's a lot of that in
Right.
motorsports. It's just kind of in the blood. And the thing is, if it's like with the book, we always joke and say, I wish my life was as fabulous as everybody thought it was, just off the surface. But
Instagram.
our dad was millions of dollars in debt when he died. We were supposed to be on the plane with him when it went down. And we basically were jettisoned into, holy crap, what are we going to do now?
Right.
Just after our 18th birthday. It was it. There was nothing for us. There was no guarantees. So the one thing about entertaining and being a musician is that you really never know what's going to happen tomorrow. So it forces you to be in the moment and present. And, I have to believe in a higher power because we could have just as easily wound up dead in a gutter
Right.
as, on the top of the charts. But I will tell you one thing. If I had a nickel for every time somebody said, I'm going to teach you what the real world is about, it's kind of like I always say we were guilty until proven innocent. We always are. So it's kind of our karma. I'm not saying it's going to go away. I guess the only difference is you'd be amazed at the different reception that we get in places that are not the U.S. It all has to do with the way that it was marketed, and it was marketed very easily by some very smart people at a big record company that saw some guys that were pretty and young and never did us any favors about talking about how we produced our own records or wrote our own songs
Right.
or played for years in club. None of that was ever discussed. It was just all of a sudden, boom, we're on MTV. It was like the world's longest overnight success. The years of sitting on
Right.
ice at a label waiting for a release window, or we never got tour support, not one penny from from Geffen Records, the biggest juggernaut of the era.
When I
Not
ran
even,
when I ran House of Blues, I can tell you Geffen and all the record companies were my biggest customers. They bought more tickets than everybody, and nowadays that would never happen. You don't even
nope,
get tour support.
no, nothing. I mean, we sold T-shirts to pay for being on tour because even our own label, most of the people didn't know we were signed. To be really honest with you, they used to do this. We also used to joke about the Music Express photo. They're going to do a picture of you signing that deal. They never did one for Gunnar and myself because we were going to be a high profile failure if it failed.
Oh.
We wanted to work with John Kolodner, an A&R guy, because we'd done our research and figured that he had enough success under his belt and enough job security to where he wasn't going to go anywhere. Because that's the other thing too is nobody wants to work on a project that somebody else brought in.
Right.
So that was a difficult thing because at the time he had just put together Aerosmith and he was riding high on Whitesnake's ubiquitous album.
Yeah.
With Still of the Night and all that, the Keith Olsen produced record. I became friends with Keith later on, years later and stuff, and kind of learned about his production stuff and all that. So it was everybody knows everybody. Just you got to be around long enough. But Gunnar and I were just these two guys that wrote songs. We always found that the power of the pop music world was in a hit song.
Right.
And nobody was going to give them to us. So we traveled pretty much all over the world to learn how to write better songs after doing years in clubs with good songs, but nothing that we would like, hey, here it is, like the elevator pitch of here's a smash.
Right.
And we wound up writing an album, I think, that had mostly singles on it. We could have kept on releasing singles just because we worked hard at it, and we still do that. We always say, everybody writes songs, but you got to learn how to write hits.
Yeah, but
and
for you guys write your own songs, but what do you think this AI is going to affect? Is there going to be a bunch of, because I drove me crazy when American Idol first came out. I watched the finale the other night, and it's so anti-music to me that it kind of drives me crazy that I think about someone like you who is skilled and is articulate and knows, you probably know also how to mix your own music.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
And then we have other bands right now that they buy their song, they have the right look, and they're promoted by ABC, and boom, all of a sudden, now they're winner of American Idol. And that girl who won is amazing, But still, I think about the person who played my club 400 times, and they put the work in and they're good because they're skilled and they've been booed and they've been everything.
Well, you can't take that away from somebody though. That's one thing that you can't get with 3 weeks of rehearsal and a TV show.
Right.
I mean, I'm saying that's its own pressure unto itself, of course, being able to perform in the clutch. But I think about this. I'm old enough to remember so many different formats. I mean, before there was digital recording at all, we were learning how to edit with razor blades on analog tape.
Reel to reel.
And I've had the benefit of being able to go in and make albums at Sound City, where it's analog tape machines. And I mean, it was a big deal to actually go into a studio with 16 tracks. Wow, 16 tracks in here, and now it's literally you got to buy a laptop and it's limitless. So when you're talking about the technology, most kids now, I worked with okay, I'll give you this. I worked with a producer from, of all places, Romania. And he was so big in Eastern Europe that at the time he had 8 of the 10 top songs in Eastern Europe were his production or as an artist. And he was great. They called him Little Mozart. His name was Marius Moga. And he was from Bucharest. No, not Bucharest. What do they call it? Anyways, he was from a Romania guy. And
Right.
we became really good friends. And I brought a guitar into the studio. And he was floored because I actually play an instrument. Because what he did was he grew up cutting and pasting loops and making them, tweaking them to make songs, and they were great.
Right.
There's no phasing issues. It was great for what he did, but he loved the fact that I was an analog guy.
Hey
It's
Matthew,
like,
can
oh,
we
well,
hold on?
let
I
me get
got to
this, let me
take.
get
We
this
have to
instrument, and
take
here's
a.
this sound,
We have to take a
so-
break. We have to take a break. They're giving me the
Oh.
eye. So we'll be back right after these messages.